Garner again, here with our video 2 in our first unit, which is selecting an instrument. We're now in part 2, and this video is going to go over woodwind instruments only, and we're going to talk about each one of them, how you kind of make a sound on them, and that way it'll give you a little bit of idea of what instrument you might want to pick and which one you're going to choose to play. So we're going to start with the flute. So here's the flute. Now the flute comes in 3 parts. Okay, this bottom part here, I'll show you the 3 parts. Take this part off. So here's the 3 parts. Okay, and they'll come in your case when you open your case. And when we get to the next videos at some point, I'll show you how to open the case on each of these and how to put them together. For now, we're just talking about the instrument. So this one here is the foot joint. Okay, and it goes just on the bottom of the flute, or the end of the flute. This one here is called the head joint, and it goes up here on this part. And the part we're putting both of these on is called the middle joint. And we make sure we line it up correctly, and make sure everything's put on correctly. And all together you have the flute. Flute is a unique instrument in band because you don't use a reed to vibrate, and you don't buzz your lips to create a vibrating sound. Vibrations create sound. What you do is you blow air into this, is called the embouchure hole, and you blow air into here, and the air hits this part and it splits, and that splitting of that air creates that air to vibrate inside the flute, which creates the sound. So I'll show you a little bit about how the flute sounds. Okay, so the first note you should take is that I'm not a flute player, or any of these woodwind players. I'm a brass player, but I do know how to make a sound, kind of. But that's kind of the idea of the sound of a flute, some of those sounds that I made there, and we'll go through each of those and how to play it later. The next instrument I want to show you is called the clarinet. Okay, so this is the clarinet. I'm not gonna take it all apart this time, like I did with the flute, but I'll tell you each of the parts of the instrument. This bottom part is called the bell. Okay, and this part, this does come off. This part here is called the lower section. This part here is called the upper section. You have this little bitty section right here. It's called the barrel. Okay, and then this top section right here is called the mouthpiece. And we have other parts of it, like the ligature and the reed and other things that we'll learn more in detail when we learn this specific instrument. This clarinet is a reeded instrument, meaning that it has a reed. I'll show you here. See this reed right here, and it is fastened on with this ligature. And the way that this instrument works is by blowing air through the reed and the mouthpiece, and that reed vibrates and creates a sound. Sounds something like this. So typically you would wet the reed. My reed was a little dry, it's giving me a little bit of a squeaky sound. But it's the clarinet. It's a beautiful instrument. It's a great instrument to play, and we'll again talk more about that when we get to this specific instrument. The next one is called the bass clarinet, and it looks like this. Now, bass clarinets come in various varieties. This particular one actually doesn't come apart. I mean, you can unscrew this whole thing and take it apart, but it doesn't come apart when you put it in the case. It just has a bigger case. But the bell does come off, as well as this is called the neck. You don't have one of these on the regular clarinet because this one's so much bigger. And then the mouthpiece, and again, this mouthpiece does remove as you play it. This one does have a spot for a neck strap if you were to carry it and play it, but most often this is an instrument that you sit down and play. But it's very similar, same fingerings as the clarinet. It's just a lower sound. So it creates, you'll find as we keep going through these instruments, you'll have some instruments that play higher sounds, some that play medium range sounds, and some that play lower sounds, and some that do various of all of those. And the purpose for that is to create lots of different sounds in our band. If everybody chose the high range instruments, our band wouldn't sound very good. Same as everybody chose the low range instruments. So we want to have a good distribution of each in our band. So I'll sit down here and play it. I don't know if the camera will pick it up very good from where it's at, but so you see it sounds very similar to the clarinet. It's just a lower sound. And so it helps us to create a broader range in our band. If we have some students who play the bass clarinet, some who play the clarinet, some who play the flute, and then we have other instruments that create other different sounds. The next grouping of instruments is saxophones. I'm going to start off with this guy. This is an alto saxophone. Always use your neck strap on a saxophone so you don't drop it. It helps you to hold it. Saxophones and all these instruments, actually, we sit down and play in band. We don't stand. When you get to high school and you're playing marching band, then you'll stand and march with them, and there's ways we accomplish that with some of the instruments that don't typically stand and play. But in beginning band, we sit down and play all of these with a few exceptions. So this is the alto sax. It's also a reeded instrument, just like the clarinet and the bass clarinet. And it also has a similar finger pattern as the clarinet. The difference is that this is made out of brass instead of out of wood. Although that clarinet's not made out of wood, it's a hard resin or like a plastic type. But it's a quality instrument, but it's not a wood one. Those are really expensive. But this is made out of metal, and so it gives it a different sound. So it sounds a little different quality to the tone. Again, adding a new context to our overall band sound, a new timbre, a new quality of tone, and that creates an overall pleasing sound with everybody playing it. So that's the alto saxophone. We have another saxophone that we use in beginning band. That's called the tenor saxophone. If you know about singing, you know you have sopranos and you have altos, you have tenors and you have bass or baritone or bass. And so alto is higher than tenor. Tenor is the next one down. So this one, because it's lower, it's a little bit bigger than the alto saxophone. And it plays a little bit lower. Okay, so that's the tenor saxophone, and it creates that kind of sound, same as the alto, just a lower sound. We do have other saxophones in the music world. The bari sax, also the baritone sax, and a soprano sax, but we don't usually use those in beginning band, just because they're kind of an extension of the sax section, and we'll use those another time. So that is our woodwind family, and if you're thinking maybe that's one of the ones you might want to choose, maybe start making a list of your favorite instruments. You might want to list all of them, your top, I want to do this one. This is the one I really want to do, all the way down to the one maybe you don't want to do. The bottom of the list would be the least favorite, and then the top. Okay, and you might want to start with the woodwinds. Maybe rank the woodwinds 1 through, how many did I show you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5, right? Flute, clarinet, bass clarinet, alto sax, and tenor sax. Okay, so those are kind of the 5 woodwinds we're starting off in beginning band. So kind of list those. Whether you think you're going to be able to get into one of those instruments or not, still list it. And create a list of your favorite instrument, and then we'll get to picking that instrument later. Okay? So those are the woodwinds. Our next video is going to cover the brass. So tune in on that one.